Hello and welcome to Cupcake Addiction's ice cream cake pop tutorial, where I'll be showing you how to make these gorgeous little ice cream cake pops. I first saw this idea on an awesome blog, Nina Bakes, so I will leave a link to her blog in the description box below, but she had a new take on a traditional favourite. So we've done ice cream cake pops before, but these ones were just so cute and cartoony, I absolutely had to share them with you. So tools and equipment that we will be using today. I've got some jaffas. These are just a red chalk orange ball that we buy here in Australia, but you could substitute these for peanut M&Ms or any round candy in any colour you like. I've got some sprinkles. I've got some pink candy melts because I'm going to do the strawberry chocolate ice cream today. I've got some melted dark chocolate or milk chocolate. I've got a serrated edge knife. I've got one of the little flat bottom ice cream cones. I've got 2 cake pop balls for each of these ice cream cake pops. So one of them has been refrigerated and one of them has been not. One is going to be for the bottom of the cone and one is going to be the little, the ball that sits on top. I've got a pair of scissors and a Ziplock bag. So let's get started. Now the cute factor on these, I think, is that they're mini. So anything mini is always gorgeous. So you want to take your ice cream cone and you can decide how big or how small you want these. You can see with my little one in the middle there, he's a little bit smaller than the other two. I'm just going to cut mine about ½ an inch or so below that line. The serrated edge knife is going to give you a little bit of a saw effect and it's going to saw through without breaking your cone. And don't worry too much if it's not perfectly even. So now you want to take your unrefrigerated cake ball. So this one here has been in the fridge for 15 minutes. If you don't have a great recipe for cake pops, I will leave a link to our recipe in the description box below. We've basically rolled as per the recipe. This one's been refrigerated 15 minutes and this one hasn't. So the one that hasn't, I'm just going to roll it into a little bit of an oval just between the palm of my hands and I'm going to shove it into the base of that cake pop. You want to push that all the way down and then you're just going to trim off any excess. So how much you use will depend on the size of the cone that you've decided to trim and the size of the cone that you've bought. So I'm just going to trim off that excess so we've got a nice flat top. Perfect. Now you want to take a little bit of that melted dark chocolate. You're just going to take your cake pop ball. It should have a bit of a naturally flat bottom just from where it's been setting in the refrigerator. Dip that ever so slightly. You just want a little bit of that melted chocolate on the bottom and then sit it on top. That melted chocolate's going to act like a glue. Now, you want to let that completely set. Once that's completely set, we can get on to dipping and decorating our gorgeous little ice cream cone cake pops. So the first colour that we want to do is going to be a layer of our bright colour. So for me, it's going to be pink. And I'm going to dip that all the way down just to the line. And then we're going to shake it off a little bit. So I'm just going to dip that down into my melted pink chocolate. And then I'm going to bring it up. A tiny little shake off there, but you really want to turn it straight back upside down and you want to tap your wrist, which is going to cause that chocolate to drizzle down nicely in our kind of cartoony dribble effect. Kind of like the ice cream's melting a little bit. Perfect. So now you want to let that layer dry and then we'll do our second layer of colour. Alright, so that pink layer has set, nice and dry to the touch. So now you want to take your second layer, which for me is going to be dark chocolate, and I'm just going to dip it to about here. So about 1/3 of the way or even 1/4 of a way down that first dipping. So pop it in, give it a little twirl, and once again, don't shake off too much of that excess. Turn it upside down, or back up the right way. You can even tap your cake pop and your whole hand, in fact, on the bench a little bit, just to encourage those little layers to dribble down a bit. So you should now have something that looks a little bit like this. We're going to let that second layer of colour completely dry and then we'll come back and we'll be ready to finish it off. Alright, so both of our first 2 colour layers are now set and it's time to just put on our final colour and finish it off. So now you just want to take your Ziplock bag and just pour in a little bit of your pink or whatever colour you're using. And we'll push that all the way down to the end. Make sure you seal your bag and let out all the air as always. And then we're just going to cut off kind of a bit of a chunky corner. It doesn't have to be too fine for this because we really want to have that nice big chunky cartoony kind of blobby effect. And then you're just going to squeeze it out onto your cake pop. So you can see there I'm just squeezing almost like a little bit of a flower pattern. And then you want to just give it a few good hard taps and let that beautiful candy melt just dribble all the way down the sides. Turn it around. You can make sure that your sort of distributing it relatively evenly. So I'm just tilting the cake pop as I tap it. Now before that dries or sets too much, take some of your sprinkles and just sprinkle them on the top and on the sides. Perfect, I've managed to make quite a nice little mess there. Now you might just need to get a little bit more of that candy melt to affix your little M&M or your Jaffa. So I'm just going to put a little blob of candy melt on the back of my Jaffa and sit it straight on top. So there you've got your utterly gorgeous little cartoony style standalone ice cream cake pop. I love these because there's no need for cake pop containers. They stand by themselves. They look absolutely gorgeous. They go with so many different party events, carnival parties, girls, boys, it really doesn't matter. I hope that you guys love them as much as I do. And thanks very much, Nina Bakes, for the fantastic idea. Thanks very much for watching My Cupcake Addiction.